Welcome, everyone. My name is Doreen Blumenfeld, and I'm part of the Sherwood Firewise Steering Group. And I am really excited that we've had a successful year. We did have an evacuation with a significant fire, but everyone was safely evacuated. And sadly, there was a loss of a few homes and structures, but everyone was safe as far as I'm aware of right now. So it has been a successful year. And as John Haschek just mentioned, we're supposed to get significant rainfall starting tomorrow. So that is really exciting too. Tonight's program should be really interesting. We have 3 speakers. We'll start with Supervisor Haschek, and then we will have David Levitt of Earth Labs talking about winter wood stove safety. And thirdly, we'll have a Red Cross team that will be talking about the work that they do to keep our community as safe as possible. I also want to invite everyone to stay to the end of the call after our working team reports, because Brian has, I think Brian, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you'll be doing a raffle at the end of the meeting. Is that correct, Brian? And maybe you're muted. So I'm going to guess that Brian will be doing. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'd like to start with Supervisor Haschek, who is just fabulous in attending our calls and giving us the latest information about what we need to know to keep the Sherwood corridor as safe as possible. So you can go ahead, and I think after Supervisor Haschek does his presentation, as well as the other presenters, there will be a short question and answer period. So, John, take it away.
All right, thanks, Doreen, and thanks for everyone for being on the line, and the great team of people who make these possible. Like Doreen said, we did escape a tragic situation with that oak fire. And it really was because the Sherwood Firewise and the work that we've done together, creating that the Furco Road, and that was heavily used by CAL FIRE. We've talked about it before, but they keep saying, we just had a presentation from the chief of CAL FIRE for the Board of Supervisors meeting the other week, and he said it was the best evacuation they've ever had, that he's had in his 30 years. So that's really kudos to all of you and the work we're doing together. So let's see, I'm John Haschek, 3rd District Supervisor. And so a couple of other issues I wanted to talk about was we had a meeting this afternoon, Keith and then Holly Roberson, who's Hal Wagonette's daughter, and her law firm, talking about the CSA3. We had county council on the line, and we're moving forward. And it's been a long process, but it's really being fruitful right now. I think that we've got a lot of good stuff going on, and as far as creating this zone of benefits so that we can assess, so that we can keep that work on the Furco Road and the Willits Creek trails, the sewer easement, what it's called, and possibly the KOA Primrose Road in the future, so we can keep doing work on those and keep them maintained. And so Keith will probably have more to talk about later, but I did talk to the today. We're going to have an informational meeting at the Board of Supervisors on, I think, January 20th. It's the second board meeting in January. And then after that, we'll move forward, hopefully, with a proclamation, or resolution, and that would probably be the following month. So we're getting these things in place, and it's been a lot of really good work on everyone's part. There's also an ordinance coming up. Let's see. An ordinance coming up this Tuesday for vegetation management. It's a new ordinance, and I just saw it this afternoon. Came out when it was printed, and so it's on the Board of Supervisors agenda. It's item 6A, and it has to do with vegetation management. And I certainly need to talk to Chief Wilkes and Chief Neuer about what their takes are on it, because trails cases with lots of empty lots and how they're going to, what they, I want to know what they think, and also with Sherwood Firewise, if this vegetation will do what it's intended to do, which is to get people to deal with any kind of fire hazards. And if they don't deal with it, there'll be a fine. So, you know, it's always the devil's in the details with these, and so we want to make sure we get it right. So if there's any input on that, please let us know. Just give me a call at 707-972-4. I'll put that in the chat. Or you can email me at askcheck@mendocinocounty.org. And then we talked about the CSA 3. We talked about the ordinance proposed on Tuesday. The last thing is a COVID update. And yesterday we had 50 new cases, which is by far the most we've seen so far. The adjusted case rate, we get into the purple tier, which is the worst tier, 7 per 100,000 or more per day, and we're at 18.1. So that's, you know, we need to do a lot of work to get it down to 7 to get into the red. They're also, the state's also looking at the ICU capacity. 15% or less open ICU beds, you get into the heaviest restrictions. And that's what Southern California is. They're groups, and so we're in the Northern California group, which includes full Del Norte, the Shasta, and Modoc, Trentry, I think might be in the Bay. So, in the last 7 days, we had 216 cases. We have 2 people in ICU right now, and our ICU capacity is 20%. So we're doing all right with that. We have 9 hospitalizations for COVID. So if there's any questions, that's about all I have. Just stay well. You know, the surge is happening, and I hope that everyone is just able to be as cautious as possible. You cautious that we know. So with I really appreciate the time you've given me. Thank you for being on this important call. For the other speakers.
Thank you, John. And your audio is a little broken up, but I think we got basically all of the points you made. And we really want to thank you for the diligence of staying with this all this time. We've been, you know, what kind of catastrophes can we face in the middle of what we already thought was a catastrophe with fire? So, you know, the pandemic just has thrown us all for a loop in addition to this, but you stayed on it, county council's on it, and all of us really send you our heartfelt thanks for the devotion you spend on all these projects. I don't know if anybody has, I didn't see anything in the chat necessarily for Supervisor Hasek, but does anybody want to ask him a question at this point? And if so, you can unmute your mic and ask.
Yeah, I'm sorry about the background noise. Is that any better?
Much better, thanks.
Oh, good. Okay. Sorry, Nancy, about that.
Okay. Are you picking up any questions, Keith, that are coming across the screen?
No, I think we got you know, basically there are a couple of things, but I think he already addressed them. And again, just while John is on the line, we did have a great meeting today with the county council. And just for those who may not know, the CSA3, the emergency access routes, this is Furco and Willett's route, and we'll talk about it more later in the meeting. But this is the next step forward to go to the supervisors to get the approvals we need to then put this up to a ballot vote to the property owners of whether we want to collect some funding to help keep these emergency access routes open and maintained. And again, we'll have a lot more detail on them, but the county is very proactive, and like Supervisor Haschek said, we're on the agenda in January, so we'll be communicating between now and then, and it'll be a topic of our meeting, our first meeting next year in January. So anybody else have questions for Supervisor Haschek?
I do. This is Doreen again, and I certainly really appreciate all the work you're doing, Supervisor Haschek. And I'm wondering if there's any new information on opening up Ridge Road in case of an emergency, where that stands.
I think Keith has some information on that, and he was talking to Chief Neuer about it, so Keith would probably be a better source than I am.
Okay. Keith, do you want to wait till we get to emergency prep for that?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Any other questions for Supervisor Haschek? Okay. Well, I want to echo Keith's kudos to you, Supervisor Haschek. I just cannot thank you enough for all the support that you've given Sherwood Firewise, and we are only as strong as we are because of your support and contribution. So thank you very much.
Yeah, I feel it's reverse. So I totally appreciate all the work you're doing, everyone. So thank you.
Thank you. So I think at this point we'd like to go on to our next presenter, which is David Levitt of Earth Labs.
Leverett.
What, I'm sorry?
There's a lever in there, Leverett.
Leverett, I apologize. So David Leverett of Earth Labs, talking about winter wood stove safety and perhaps a few other topics. So David, would you like to make sure that you are unmuted and give us your information?
Hello, Noreen. Yeah, David Leverett here.
Hey.
Hi, David.
Hello, Keith.
Howdy. You're good.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on this great show, and it's really fascinating what a great technology we have to be able to do this, since we can't meet in person. But I did always enjoy the great meetings we had down there at the community center. Hopefully that's not too far away again, where we can meet face to face and see one another. But one of the reasons I got invited on the show was to be able to talk about wood stove safety, and I've been in the wood stove business for a number of years now, and I've seen just a little bit of everything. So that's something I want to talk about is how to make your burn season safe. A lot of fires that are said to have been wood stove fires are oftentimes fire up in the chimney or the connector pipe, and not necessarily the wood stove. So I would be really careful to check and make sure that your chimney's been swept. That's a really important thing. The creosote can build up in there, and you don't know, and then all of a sudden a little spark goes up, or a little bit of heat or flame goes up and ignites this tar-like creosote that's up in your pipe, and then you've got a chimney fire, which is kind of scary, and they can go up in the attic and cause even more problems if things aren't up to snuff. We did a job in Fort Bragg this week where the gentleman had built a really nice hearth and a nice backing for it and installed the stove and went up in the attic, and there was he had a fire about a year ago, and all the timber up in the rafters, the framing up in the roof was charred, and it had been, I think, structurally redeveloped, re-engineered, and put back together, but it was quite a shock. And this was a brick chimney, and I believe what happened, and this does happen, is there was a chimney fire, and it blew the mortar out of the brick, and then caught the framing on fire up in the attic at 11 o'clock at night, and fortunately it got put out, and minimal damage mainly up in the attic, and the house survived and all the people survived, but it's kind of hit home a little bit when we were up there working, and we got everything replaced with nice new insulated pipe up in the ceiling and up through the roof and on top of the roof, and so that felt pretty good, and he had a new stove, so we were really happy for him to get that all squared away. And I'll jump around quite a bit too. Another thing that's always on my mind is disposal of ashes. It is, I believe, one of the second leading causes of firewood, wood stove, fireplace fires is the improper disposal of ashes. And it's very important that when you do scoop out your ashes, to put it in a metal container with a lid on it. And if you can, you can wet it down a little bit. And once it's wet down and nice and soaking wet, then you can put it in your trash or dumpster, but certainly not before that. Sometimes it goes in the compost pile. And if the compost pile is dry and there's leaves on top of it and you didn't know it and there was a little coal in there, then it could catch things on fire, especially the dry winter that we've been having. I've been up on top of roofs before where we'll go up and just inspect the chimney before we install the new stove, and I put my ladder up once and looked in the gutter, and the gutter had leaves in it, and on top of the leaves was a half-burnt little strip of paper. And it was, I believe, wintertime, so it did not cause any problems, but had that happened when everything was dry, it could have been really catastrophic. So keeping your roof clean is very important. Keeping the spark arrestor on your cap clean is very important. It's a safety device to keep large flakes of burning ember from floating out into the air and landing on your roof or out in your yard and starting a fire. They kind of a double-edged sword too. They are one of the first things to plug up in a chimney system is that spark arrestor, and that starts collecting creosote. So they can be a problem. So make sure that they're kept clean. I do know some people that take them off during the wet season, but that's not something we really advise. But it does happen sometimes. So keeping your chimney swept is very important. It's a matter of ladder safety. If you're going to do it yourself, make sure that you understand ladder safety and use an extension ladder that extends up a couple of feet higher than the roof so that you have something to grab hold of when you're getting from ladder to roof and from roof back down the ladder, and make sure it's secure down below. And Keith, I think you taught me this once, the way to hold a ladder that you were taught in your firefighting training was to go underneath the ladder and hold it from underneath in case something is dropped on the ladder. If the person climbing up and down the ladder slips, it won't hit you. So, and yep. I remember that a lot. I've heard of firefighters being injured for not following that protocol. We knew one firefighter that was holding a ladder for somebody, I guess not the proper way, and they were covering up the roof with plastic after the fire, and a roll of plastic dropped down and hit the guy in the arms and broke one of his arms. So ladder safety is really big, especially as we age. If you're not comfortable on the roof, you can always hire a chimney sweep to come and do it. My idea is everybody has their own chimney brush and rods, and even if you don't use it yourself, you can talk either your neighbor into it or hire somebody that understands ladder safety and knows how to clean a chimney to use it.
Well, and we talked about even maybe like a lending library kind of a thing. There's these tool libraries that PG&E has and others, and because a chimney sweep brush is a pretty robust tool, and if it's used properly, a whole bunch of people could use it on a bunch of different stoves, and then you could just have several of the 6, 8, and whatever inch sizes and available for use. And that might be a little program to offer for those that want to do it themselves. It's not for everyone.
Yeah. And it's, for about $100, you can get some pretty nice equipment and own it yourself, or just keep it within your family group, too. It doesn't have to be super organized, but I think that lending library is really a great idea. And once you do start to brush your chimney, you need to understand what happens to all that stuff that's in your chimney that gets cut loose and drops down. It can drop down inside the stove, so it's very important that you have access to scraping that out. And if you don't, you can lift your chimney up. Hopefully you have a telescoping sliding piece that will lift out of your wood stove, and you can put a bag underneath it and brush it that way. But your wood stove is going to work a lot better when the chimney's clean, too, because it does cause a lot of interference to have that creosote up in there. That reminds me of the different types of black pipe, that connector pipe that you see in your living room. There's two different types. One of them is a close clearance, and it has a stainless steel liner in it with just a mild steel black shell around it. It looks just like black single-wall pipe, but it has a stainless liner in it. and a little bit of a dead air space in between the liner and the outside of the pipe. So if there ever is a fire, it's not going to glow red hot and cause problems. And they're very, very long lasting, and it's really the way to go if you ever are going to be replacing that black connector pipe inside your house, and they do wear out. I would certainly recommend going with a close clearance pipe. That works really, really well. It also warms up quicker, because the reason the smoke goes out through the chimney is because the smoke and the hot gases that go out are lighter than air, and they cause that draft. It's the chimney itself that is really causing the draft up through there. So if you can warm up your chimney a little quicker, you can start your fire better, and it just works. It still emits heat out into the room, and just works a lot better to have that. I'll jump around a little bit to open fireplaces. They need to be swept sometimes too. They're a little difficult because there's a smoke shelf back there where all the stuff drops in, but get up there and make sure that that's all swept out. And burning dry wood is very important. The funny thing about wet wood is it can be a fire hazard. And the reason it's a fire hazard is because the heat boils the water out of the end grains of the wood, and that goes up and cools off the smoke up in the chimney, and then all of a sudden those gases, once they get down below 160 degrees, form creosote, and that creosote clings to the side of your chimney, and every time you use your fireplace or wood stove, it starts collecting time and time and time again. It starts layering up, and before you know it, you've got some hazard problems in your chimney. Another telltale about your chimney, if you start getting smoke in the room or maybe smoke out of the cracks, that's oftentimes an indicator that you've got a venting problem with the smoke going out. It could be a plugged up cap or a chimney that's just not drafting well because of all the creosote in it. So when I get asked how often do you clean your chimney, the answer is once or twice a year or as needed. So it can happen really quick with the wrong kind of wood and the wrong kind of burning practices. We do have a lot of nice dry wood around the county. I suppose I know, Keith, you and I were talking about that the other day. It seems to be everywhere, and so that's really a great thing to have the right kind of fuel. Pardon me, for your stove and fireplace. We're also, let's see, I guess I was introduced to David Leverett again, and I have a business in Willits called Earth Lab, so we're in the wood stove and gas stove business, and inserts. We sell fireplace inserts both in wood and gas, and so there's definitely some do's and don'ts regarding the gas appliances. Excuse me, I had to take a little drink there. One thing to avoid at all costs is an unvented gas heater. They are marketed as being vent-free, and I call them brains-free. But you don't want to have the fumes that come off of any kind of combustion inside your house. There's two or three things that happen. Number one, if anytime there's combustion in your house, it's consuming oxygen. Two, when it's consuming oxygen, in almost every case when there's a flame or a fire, there's carbon monoxide and some other things that I can't even pronounce that comes in propane and natural gas that is very deadly. Carbon monoxide is very deadly. So if your gas heater is not vented, two things happen. You're consuming the oxygen that you need to live off of, and it is producing a poison that will kill you. So the consumption of oxygen creates, I think, what is called a hypoxia, where you're just breathing dead air and there's no oxygen going in. And the carbon monoxide, which is odorless, colorless, and tasteless, is emitted into the air. One of the symptoms is you start getting sleepy, and you can fall asleep, and it can get worse and worse. So avoid any kind of unvented heating. There's a little bit of talk now about even the kitchen stove. There's an open flame. You've got a flame in the oven. If you have a gas stove and a gas range top, where do the fumes go from there? And there's I understand there's no real codes that apply to that, so make sure that your vent hood is turned on when you're cooking with gas. Very important to get those fumes out of there. If you don't have a vent hood, perhaps crack a window open. Make sure there's some fresh air, makeup air for it, so that you're not poisoning yourself as you cook. So I want to jump around to, and I'm the kind of guy that jumps around a lot. So the other thing that I wanted to talk a little bit about, Fine Home Building magazine has an article about fire blocking in a house. We've talked about the screens around the house and getting the proper kind of skirting and not letting the fire get in through little passageways. And those passageways can be the plumbing underneath your house. They can be, there is a type of foam, a fire-resistant foam that you can fill in around there. There's you could put little plywood gussets or sheetrock gussets. There's during new construction, there's pretty much be a good idea to read that article because it addresses a lot of things about how fire can travel up through little holes and speed up the fire spreading process. It can even go into the soffit in your kitchen and travel horizontally left and right. So, if a mouse can get in, or a squirrel can get into your house, and so can fire. So, it's a pretty important one. And one thing that we found time and time again, and this is where I think where buildings fail, is in these wooden chases that you have in a fireplace. So, a traditional fireplace is brick inside and brick outside, and you look all the way up, and there's nothing but brick. But in newer construction, that's made out of wood, and there's a manufactured pipe hooked up to manufactured fireplace down below, and that's a passageway. And these big boxes, I call them, which is a chimney chase made out of plywood. If a fire can work its way into that plywood, like with a pile of dead leaves in front of it, into that plywood, a spark or an ember can drop from your roof all the way down to the floor of your building. And it can even go 2 stories, and so now you have the roof on fire and the floor on fire at the same time. And so it's very important that any kind of plywood chase has a fire stop on it. And this fire stop can be made out of regular wood framing and sheetrock, and then you could put a collar around where it touches the manufactured chimney, and even put another collar around there if you want to keep the insulation away from it. But it's really an important thing to make sure that your chimney is fire blocked. Sometimes,
David, you said there were quite a few of those homes in Brooktrails, right? I mean, that's
every time I've gone in and looked down in these things. Sometimes they'll replace all the chimney, and I don't remember ever seeing a fire block. It's something I think the building department's just kind of it's not really well defined in a code, but it's one of those really super important things because it's a raceway that fire can just drop right down through this big wooden chase and hit the floor, and then you've got a fire sandwich with your building in between. Yeah, so that's a very, very important aspect. And of course, cleaning the gutters, cleaning the roof, and I'm trying to count how many times we have to get around and clean the leaves away from our house, and I think it starts in August and goes all the way through December, and there's still leaves falling from the trees, so it's not a once-a-year kind of thing. It's really a continuing maintenance to clean your gutters, and clean the valleys, and then do all the other stuff that Sherwood Firewise has been talking about, all the flammables around your house and the fences that touch it, and whatever is stacked up around your house. Try to get that cleaned away, which reminds me, do as I say, don't do as I do here. So,
I think the only other thing, David, you and I talked about that would be good to point out, fuel storage for people that may have propane, and then also a generator. And we only have a few minutes left, and so if not a lot of detail, but anything to do with fuel safety. And I think that what you said about the carbon monoxide holds true with generators too. You don't want to put them anywhere where it might be where you're breathing the exhaust of the generator.
Yeah, we're starting to hear reports of that too. These professional companies come and put a little slab outside your house, and you got this tiny little generator, and the generator so close to the house that the carbon monoxide, especially if you're running it during the summer, can come right in through an open window and really cause some problems. If you have a portable generator, a gasoline generator, what do you do with that can of gas? Is it out in your woodshed, or is it just in the garage? Where I put mine is in a metal garbage can. I looked into the price of an official cabinet to hold flammables, and they're, a used one is $200 or $300. So I got a metal garbage can, and I think the new ones you have to seal up a little bit. It might drip a little bit of rain, and I put my 2.5-gallon gas cans to stack them up inside the metal garbage can, and put a sign out on it that says gasoline on it, and you can paint the lid red if you want to, but it keeps the fumes down, and it keeps the sun off of the plastic, and I think what I look at is it's a slim margin of safety. Anytime we can widen our margin of safety, then do it. Little baby steps can add up to one big step. So any of these little things that you can do are going to make you sleep better at night.
Yep. Excellent. All right. Does anybody have questions for David? And that was great, David. Man, what a bunch of information.
Yeah, I guess I can leave my contact info.
Yes, please. I was going to ask you to do that.
The name again is David Leverett, and the name of the business is EarthLab Energy Systems. We're in Willits, just south of the railroad track, south of Safeway, in our own little building there. And the way I like to stay in contact is either in person or give me a call, and it's 707-459-6272. And we are open by appointment because there's only a few of us working there. We go out and do installations and deliveries, so sometimes we have to close the store to go do that. And so anybody that wants can call me about anything.
Anybody got questions for David? And I know chimney sweep was one thing that people had asked about, and I don't know how many chimney sweeps there are, but we could use a referral network for that too, probably.
Yeah, that'd be a great idea. We don't really do chimney sweeps unless we're installing a stove and it's in the course of an installation or a delivery. But so we don't really have that service. But it's a great service, and especially you can combine that with cleaning your gutters. Some of these gutters are a little dangerous to be cleaning on a 2-story house. So
yeah, no kidding. Right. Well,
David, this is Doreen, and I had a question.
Sure,
it's my understanding that you also can repair wood stoves, so if someone has smoke leaking around the door and perhaps the insulation is damaged or board.
Yeah, we do sell gasketing, stove door gasketing and glass gasketing. We don't really have the staff to go out and just repair stoves other than the ones that we sold, that we service what we sell, but we really don't have the staff to go out and do service calls on that kind of thing. But we sell over-the-counter some of the goodies that you need, like gasketing, and that's a wear and tear item, and make your stove work a lot better and safer with gasketing if that wears out.
Great, and it's my understanding EarthLab has been in business here in Willis, serving the Willis community for decades. Is that correct?
Since the beginning of time.
I thought so.
Yeah, 1982, and I'm as old as dirt, so it's been a while. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other questions for David? Anything coming across your screen, Keith?
Nope, haven't seen anything. Everybody's just saying thank you very much, and really appreciate it, David. Thanks.
Well, thank you to Firewise. It's just an amazing thing. This evacuation was a model. It was just a dream come true, and it didn't happen by itself. And I think Firewise was one of the things that really got all the entities together and got everybody thinking the same way. And what an amazing success! Thank you so much.
Thank you, David.
All right, I'm going to mute then. I'm just going to listen from now on.
Great. Okay. Thanks for your presentation. Okay, we have a Red Cross team. Is that correct, Keith? And I think we have 5 people on the team.
Not sure. I think Brooke is probably going to do part of the presentation. Brooke Dunn, and maybe Alexis, but I don't know. They could introduce themselves because there is a whole team of them on the phone here. So, we've got Gabby Perez, and I can't read your entire name. I'm sorry, Gabby. So I'll let you guys maybe they could introduce themselves. Doreen, sorry to interrupt you.
No problem. So let's start with the presentation from the Red Cross team.
Thank you very much, everybody. Good evening. My name is Gabby or Gabriela. I know my last name is kind of a hassle to pronounce. And I am here with my whole team, like you said. Yes, we have the whole preparedness team for you guys. So want to do this. So today we are going to be talking a little bit about preparedness essentials and also about home fires. We want to be ready. And I know that's a big part of what you guys do. So we want to chime in and just to let you know what sort of things we do in the Red Cross. So for those who can see, we have a presentation in the screen. For those who don't, please listen up and we'll be asking a few questions along the presentation. Please feel free to participate. And I know you guys, Keith, you have, you're monitoring the chat. Brian, you are as well, you are monitoring the chat as well. So please let me know if there's any questions or if anyone is participating, I will be asking you guys that. Brooke, may I ask you, can you hear me well? Okay, great.
Yes. Sorry, I couldn't get off mute.
That is fine. All right. Well, let's begin. Like I said before, we are part of the preparedness team, and we are here to talk to you about preparedness essentials. So welcome, everyone. Let's start. So we know that we face a lot of emergencies and hazards, and the fact is that disasters happen. They happen often. They happen with little or no warning, and they happen anywhere at any time. Every year, communities across the U.S. face disasters like hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, winter storms, wildfires. We were just talking about wildfires, and home fires impact thousands of households, and we respond to those the most. So may I ask anyone who wants to participate, what types of hazards do we face in our area? We were just talking about a little bit of those. So you can put it in the chat, you can unmute yourself, or so Keith and Brian, I know you guys are monitoring that if we have any responses. What types of hazards do you think we face around the area? And do we have
anything?
The
one that we're very concerned about is wildfire.
Yes, indeed.
And earthquakes less so.
Yeah, correct. But we face those and we should be ready for them anyway, right? So thank you very much for those responses. Yes, that is correct. So it is up to us to be ready, right? In any of the disasters that we mentioned and others, right? We assume sometimes that people will come and help us. However, resources just aren't there to support everyone immediately. First responders, disaster organizations, government agencies, and hospitals, emergency rooms do their best, but on average, these groups are staffed and prepare for a normal day-to-day operation, right? And resources in an emergency might be limited. And the truth is that we will depend on ourselves mainly because roads might be impassable, utilities might be unavailable, hospitals and first responders could be overwhelmed. Banks, grocery stores, gas stations, pharmacies, schools, and other places might be closed, so we need to be ready. You might also need to help others, right? Such as members in your household or your neighbors, right? So people who have functional needs. So don't count on getting help right away, just be prepared. Next slide, please, Brooke. So all of us can and should be prepared to help ourselves and our households. We'll be prepared. This preparation will be perfect always, maybe not perfect. Will preparation make things quick, easy, or painless? Not always, but planning and preparation will help us to be safe and recover quickly, or quicker at least. So what does it mean to be prepared for you? You can put it in the chat box, you can unmute yourself. What does it mean to be prepared? And Keith and Brian, please feel free to chime in as well, or anyone who is in the control center. Anyone, what does it mean to be prepared?
See if we get somebody coming in. This is Keith. One of the things we've been doing is evacuation preparation and practicing evacuation and evacuation notices and phone trees and things like that. And we recently had to evacuate the entire community. So that planning that we did and then the practicing of that as well was really important. So So that's something we were doing to prepare.
Right. Great. Thank you. Yeah, to be prepared, to be ready is planning, practicing, and practicing. Right. Thank you for that. And yes, when we are prepared, we can take protective actions to be safe, right? Plan, react in the right ways because we practice. We can adapt to tough challenges because we practiced before and we know what we're facing now. And we can recover quicker from difficulties. Next slide, please. So what we want you guys to get out of this presentation is three main things. To be prepared for the Red Cross or to be Red Cross ready means to get a kit, make a plan, and be informed. And how should we do this? So get a kit that should contain supplies that you will need at home or can easily carry with you if you need to evacuate. We were just talking about evacuating. So yes, we need a kit to do that. We need to make a planning. You should identify the steps you will take to respond to this specific disasters that we were talking about. For each disaster, decide who in your household will do what, who is going to have what role, where would you go, and how would you communicate with each other. And finally, you need to be informed. It is important that you're informed. You need to learn how you are going to react with the given information at the time, right? Because we don't know what roads are going to be closed and we don't know where the fire started, for example. And we need to know the resources that we have available in our community. Like, do we have Red Cross? Do we have other agencies, right? So that is very important for you to respond quickly to help yourself, your household, and your community in general. Now, we're going to take a look at each of them a little closer. So next slide, please, Brooke. Get a kit. If a disaster strikes in your community, you might not have access to food, water, electricity, a medical facility, or even a drugstore. Preparing a disaster kit for your household is an important step to take so everyone can be safe and healthy during a disaster. Consider assembling 2 kits of supplies. One kit, you should put everything you will need to stay at home for at least 3 days. And the other kit, we're going to call the Go Bag. This should be a lightweight, smaller version that you can take with you if you have to leave your home quickly. It should contain everything that you need to be on your own for at least 3 days, based on the needs of the members of your household. This could be one kit for the entire household, or it could mean separate kits for everybody, depending on the needs of everyone. So customize your kits to meet everyone's personal needs, and so in the case of a disaster, everybody is ready. Next slide, please. So we want to gather the supplies. To build your kit, think about what you use on a daily basis and what you might do if those resources were limited or not available. Start with the basics like food. You need water, any life-sustaining items that members in your household or you use, right? Just try to be as independent as possible. So gather all you need. Basic supplies would include for non-perishable, easy to prepare food items. If you have any canned food, do you need a can opener? Remember that you might be without electricity and you might only have a certain amount of water stored. So how much water do you think we need per person? I know it's in the slide, so kind of gave you a hint. Anybody? Maybe someone in the phone who can't see the slides. If we don't have anyone, that is okay. Is 1 gallon per day per person. You should have at least 1 gallon of water per day per person, half for drinking and half for sanitation. You might need more than this depending on the specific needs of those in your household and the environment in which you live. For example, if it's summer, do we need more maybe? Do we need to drink more water? Maybe, yeah, right? You should always also carry a flashlight and a battery power or hand crank radio. If possible, an NOAA water radio so that you can receive important weather statements. You might also sign up in advance to receive emergency notifications from your local emergency services. I know you guys have an app, for example. We should encourage to use those and download those beforehand. Extra batteries, a first aid kit, 7-day supply of medications, right? And the medical items that you need. Keep a copy of your prescriptions, the dosage, the treatment information. You should include, if you use any power-dependent mobility devices, then you need to maybe store more batteries for that. You should also talk to your doctor or pharmacist about what actions to take in case of an emergency. How am I going to get my treatment or my prescriptions? A multi-purpose tool is always helpful. Sanitation and personal hygiene items, copies of your personal documents, right? Not just the medications, but proofs of your addresses, deeds, lease at your home, passports, birth certificates, and insurance policies. Those are very important, right? Current digital photos of loved ones, and you should always try to keep them updated every 6 months or so. A cell phone and charger. Households and your members, everybody should have an emergency contact card, right? Because what if our phone dies and we don't know anybody's number? So we should always keep those contact cards with us in our emergency kit. Extra cash, because if there is no power, then maybe our credit cards are not working. So cash is always great. And if we have maybe coins or fives or ones, that is also helpful, because we don't want to buy the most expensive water in our lives, like $20, and nobody has change or something like that, right? At least one emergency blanket, and this would depend on like what area you're on, but that's always important. And maps of the area, just in case you don't have access to a device that have Google Maps, Maps, or whatever ways, other app that you might use to download the maps. But don't feel overwhelmed about all this lists and items that I'm talking about. Preparedness is a process that takes a little time. Consider building your kit one step at a time. You should be adding each day or each week 1 or 2 items to complete your kit and be ready. Don't forget to make a kit for your pets if you have any pets or service animals. Be sure to include food, water, identification tags, and other necessary supplies that you have for them. Next slide, please, Brooke. So I talked a few things that we should put in our kits, and these were in general and overall, but you should always customize your own kit, because not everybody has the same specific needs, right? For example, are the weather radios with text displayed and flashing alerts available for me? Is there anybody who has difficulty hearing? Or like, do I wear glasses, right? If I wear glasses, do I want a pair of glasses in my go bag and kit? I know that's something I learned from Brooke. Thank you, Brooke, for that. I don't wear glasses, so she and I have different needs, right? So medical supplies, like I said before, are very important. Communication boards or tables, baby supplies, pet supplies, an extra set of keys for your vehicle or your house, right? And there's always a little bit more that we can add: a whistle, right? Towels, work gloves, tools that we use often, duct tape, scissors, and all those little items that sometimes we have another pair, a spare off. So start putting those on your go bag and like emergency kit. Next slide, please. And now we are in step number 2. We talked about getting a kit. What is the next thing that we need to do? We want to make a plan. So knowing the hazards that are likely to happen in your area will help you to make a plan. Different hazards require you to take different actions. For instance, if we would have a tornado, you need to move to a basement, a storm cellar, or an interior room to the lowest floor, right? With no windows. For a home fire, everyone needs to evacuate immediately and meet at the designated safe meeting place or the meeting point. And that's why we practice and practice and practice. We were talking about evacuating, so you guys know about this. Talk with everyone in your household about how to prepare for and respond to the hazards that are most likely to happen where you live. Learn, work, and you can make it fun, right? If there are any children at home, then we can play with them. They already know what is a fire drill. How do they do it at school? Should we do it again here? Where's our meeting spot? And all that should be taught when we are planning. Identify the responsibilities of each member in your household as well, and plan to work together as a team. If a household member is in the military or has extended business travel on a regular basis, plan on how you will respond and how you are going to talk to them and let them know where you're at and what are you doing to be safe, right? Individuals with access and functional needs also need to be prepared. And maybe this preparation needs to be a little different, right? We should create a personal support network that can help you plan and provide assistance if a disaster happens. Remember not to depend on just one person. Include a minimum of 3 people in your network and practice with them. Complete a personal assessment of what are your functional needs and possible needs during a disaster. Make sure you practice your disaster plans with your personal support network, right? Because one thing is just to let them know over the phone, and something else is to practice with them. You should practice this plan twice a year at least. Don't forget to think about what would you do with your pets if you have any pets. Remember, some shelters do not accept pets, and right now during COVID, what are we going to do? Are they congregate shelters, non-congregate shelters? So it's always good for you to know beforehand how is this going to work. So you can always contact your local emergency management agency for a list of the shelters and if they are pet friendly or not. Do we have American Red Cross shelters, right? So please make sure that you include all these details in your plan so you know what to do if an emergency strikes. Next slide, please. You should include the right details. Identify 2 ways to evacuate from every room in your home, your neighborhood, or your town, depending on how big the disaster might be. Plan what to do in case you get separated, right? Choose 2 places to meet. Depending on the emergency, you might need to meet right away outside of your home, or maybe you need to meet outside of your neighborhood, right? In case you cannot return home because you were evacuated. Don't forget to consider any transportation challenges that you might encounter or other individuals in your household or in your neighborhood may encounter. What if they use assistive equipment? How are we going to mobilize them, right? An important part of your disaster plan is how you will communicate, especially if you and the members in your household are not together if this disaster happens. Make sure each member of your household has contact details, like we talked about the contact cards, right? Determine now ahead of time what important records you will need and where they should be stored, such as a safety deposit box or a fireproof box. Remember, it's always a good idea to have copies in your devices if you're going to email them to yourself. Put them in your kit as well. If you are without power for an extended period of time and you need to evacuate, it will be important to have a place to stay. So now you can start planning and asking, like, can I stay with this other person? Can I go somewhere else? Are people around my area going to be affected as well? Should I go out of state in the meantime? So all those questions that will apply to you are good to put in your plan so everybody in your household know about them. And if the authorities encourage you to shelter in place, ensure that all your household members know about this. They are aware of the actions that you need to take and they need to take, right, while you are staying home. Once you have your plans developed, practice, and practice. I know you guys know that very well, but it's always good to remind ourselves that in order for us to make it better every day, we need to practice. So review these plans with everybody in your household. Next slide, please. And be informed. The 3rd thing that I want you to take out of this part of my presentation, it is to be informed. We talked a little bit about being informed when we talked about making the plans and the types of hazards that we are facing in our area. But there is a little bit more to it. Here's some things that you should do. Know how your community warns of a community disaster. Some communities have outdoor sirens, right? Some communities do it all in their smartphones. Some communities use the radio or the TV. So learn how you are going to know if something is happening. You can use an NOAA weather radio. You can listen to the local news as well, or the TV, right? You can use your TV every day when you watch the news. you need to understand the difference between a watch and a warning. You need to know what they are talking about whenever you receive this type of information. So here we have two types of information that you can receive. One is a watch and something else is a warning. So what happens if in the radio or in the TV you heard that there's a watch? This means that there's the potential of a specific type of weather event or hazard. So be alert, start making preparations, monitor the weather and the local emergency broadcast. So we're watching, right? But what happens if it's a warning? A warning means that a specific type of severe weather or hazard is imminent, meaning that it is already occurring. You should take immediate action to protect yourself when a warning is issued. So be sure that you know what the message means. Learn about an area before you travel, if you're going to travel or if you're going to go anywhere. I know most of us are not right now, but if you are going to, please make sure that you know and understand the disaster risks that that area faces, so you can protect yourself. If you're visiting somebody, learn about and in this place we have earthquakes, so learn about them. You can always, again, download the apps, the Emergency Red Cross. We have Emergency Red Cross apps. This lets you monitor at least 35 different severe weather and emergency alerts. I know you guys have your own app as well, so those are important to have. Know your neighbors. They can be good resources of community information, right? And maybe somebody else needs help. So I encourage you to get to know your neighbors. Next slide, please. So we talked about three things: getting a kid, being informed, and making a plan, right? And now, I mean, we know that disasters are likely to happen in our area. We talked about wildfires and maybe earthquakes. So now that you know that, you can start getting ready. In your household, how are your plans going to be? What my disaster kit will be for everyone or just for me, and everybody else will have their own kit. How's my go bag? Where's my go bag going to go to my car, to work, and all those? And make sure that you are prepared, not just with the supplies, but you also need to have the knowledge. For example, if you need to be CPR certified or first aid certified, those certifications are always important, and they are being offered even now because they save lives. With that message, I am going to leave you with Brooke, who is going to be talking about home fires. May I ask, and before we move on, are there any questions about how to be prepared?
Gabby, this is Keith. That was really great. Thank you so much. Very informative. And one of the things in our community that we're finding is the difficulty of involving families, of young families, that, and especially even before COVID, that a lot of our members are retired or are otherwise in that sort of older community, and younger people tend to be too busy with things. So as far as Red Cross and your training and whatever, what kinds of things have you seen for like young families that might attract the kids and or the parents to get more involved in planning like this, maybe games or things like that?
Well, Keith, thank you very much for your question. Actually, that's a very exciting question. And I think, well, we are doing many, many things, and I can talk forever, and Brooke would not like that very much. But just to make it brief, we have this type of preparation for everyone, right? We have for little ones, just with the story time, how to be ready for home fires, which one of our programs is called Pedro the Penguin. The next program that we have is called the Pillowcase Project. That is for kids that are already in middle school. We also have the same presentation that you guys are having right now, Be Red Cross Ready, for young adults and older adults. So we have different programs and we offer them to the community. All of them are for free. We are also trying to get this more tech savvy, right? Like we have the apps now that everybody's on their phone. So maybe that could engage this young families and the community in general, because everybody is on their phone. We also have for little kids, we have apps such as the Monster Guard, so they can learn while they play. So there are many resources in the community, and Red Cross is actually very well versed in this. So I would encourage all of you to please visit redcross.org and just to know our homepage, get to know Preparedness. We have a lot of these resources, and we are trying to get out in the community and provide these classes actually. So if you know anyone that is interested, please let us know. Like I said, we have from story time all the way to seniors, and we will be happy and glad to provide this type with the community with this type of information. And with that, Brooke, I'm gonna leave you for bonfires, but thank you, Keith, again for your question.
Yeah, that was great. Thanks, Gabby.
So, yeah, thank you so much, Gabby. Like she mentioned, I'm going to dive into some information on home fires, because I believe Gabby mentioned briefly that, yes, the Red Cross does respond to many, many home fires. We think on average, we respond to more than like 60,000 disasters, more or less, and most of those are actually home fires. So we do want to be prepared for how to tackle those. All right, so the first way we can be prepared is just knowing some of the common causes of these home fires. So on the little chart here, you see cooking equipment is actually the leading cause of home fires and home fire related injuries, and they account for actually 19% of home fire disasters. Next, we have malfunctioning and improper use of heating, electrical, and lighting equipment. And together, those are for 35% of home fire fatalities, and 5% of home fire fatalities are started by smoking materials. And these fires are the leading cause of home fire fatalities. So how can you reduce the risk of fires in your home? Some home fires can be prevented by following basic safety tips, and we're going to talk a little bit about each of those. So in regards to cooking, unattended cooking is responsible for 1/3 of reported home cooking fires. So when we're making food in the kitchen, we can remember a couple of things. First, always stay in the kitchen when something is cooking. We have a fun phrase at the bottom there. It is keep an eye on what you fry. And that's always a fun mantra to remember when you are in the kitchen cooking. One really good thing actually as well is to install and learn how to use a fire extinguisher, just in case a fire does get started. And talking a little bit about how we can reduce the risk with electrical incidents starting fires. Like we mentioned, 35% of home fires are a result of malfunctioning or even improperly used heating, electrical, and lighting equipment. So to reduce the chance of a home fire because of an electrical cause, we want to remember that more than half of the deaths resulting from home and heating fires are actually caused by heating equipment that is too close to things that burn. So we want to make sure that anything that could catch fire, like furniture, curtains, dish towels. I know that it is getting colder, so sometimes we use maybe portable heaters, and we just want to make sure these are all 3 feet away from any of our heat sources. We have another phrase, we're all for good catchy phrases, and that is at the top. It is 3 feet from the heat, and that is a great way to remember to keep some distance between the things that you are plugging in to heat up maybe your house and the furniture or things around it. You should always plug in appliances directly into wall outlets and avoid extension cords because extension cords are actually intended for temporary use. If necessary, it might be worth having an electrician add more outlets to your home as well if you do find yourself having to use a lot of extension cords. You want to avoid overloading outlets or extension cords, so don't plug in multiple power strips or extension cords with several items attached to it. This could be a risky move and cause a lot of home fires. So we want to make sure that electrical cords aren't damaged, running under carpets, or attached to anything by nails or in high traffic areas. So we really want to keep an eye on those electrical cords and really how we're using them. All right, and failing to properly extinguish smoking materials like cigarettes, pipes, or cigars is one of the leading causes of residential fires and deaths in the United States. So if you or anyone in your home does smoke, even if you have guests that come over and smoke, we want to try to smoke outside. And if you do smoke indoors, never smoke in bed when drowsy, or if anyone is using an oxygen tank. You should use a deep, sturdy ashtray and always properly put out the butts. A good dose with water also really helps. Keep matches and lighters out of children's reach, preferably in a locked cabinet or container where it's just out of sight. And a little note on if you do vape as well, never leave it charging overnight or even unattended, and always use the charger that it came with. And we should replace the batteries that are wet or damaged. All right, and smoke alarms. Aside from being informed on what causes home fires, the best tool that you can actually use to protect yourself and your household is by having working smoke alarms. So the National Fire Protection Association did conduct some research, and it shows that 3 out of every 5 home fire deaths in a home with either smoke alarms that don't work or a home without any smoke alarms. So not only that, but having a working smoke alarm actually cuts the risk of dying in a home fire by half. So having these working smoke alarms is extremely important in each household. So when it comes to using smoke alarms properly, because we do need them to function well if we do want them to protect our households, it's important to remember a few things. One is we should install smoke alarms on every level of our home, inside bedrooms, outside sleeping areas. We also highly recommend that they are interconnected. This way, when one alarm sounds, they can all go off. And we do want to test these monthly using the test button just to make sure they are working properly. As well, replacing the batteries once a year for the alarms that do require batteries, and replace the smoke alarm itself every 10 years. This also includes the hardwire units. We want to make sure we're switching those out just to ensure that, again, they are working properly to protect us. And I know it can be tempting to disconnect the smoke alarms after it's sounded because of something like cooking, if you create a lot of smoke, but we never want to disable our smoke alarms, even temporarily. They often do have a silence or a hush feature, so it's always better to press those or turn those on if we are getting annoyed. And if our alarms do continue to annoy us because of where they are placed, it might also be a good idea to think about moving them around a little. Yeah, but we don't ever want to turn them off completely. All right. And we also want to know what to do if there is a fire. Everyone in your household needs to know what to do if a smoke alarm sounds. If a fire starts in your home, you might actually have less than 2 minutes to escape. So earlier, Gabby touched on having a plan of action, and I'm just going to talk a little bit more about that again. When there's a home fire, we want to get out and stay out and leave everything behind. Just get out as quickly as you can and never go back into the building. If smoke or fire blocks one of your ways out, we want to try to use obviously another way out. But if you must go through the smoke in order to get out, you want to get low and go under the smoke in order to escape. And everyone in your household should plan to meet at one designated safe spot. And we want this to be a specific location. So if you look out your house, you can point to it and know exactly where it is, so that when you are out safely, you can call 911 from your safe spot. All right. So it's important to think a little more about planning our escape route. So each room, we should have planned out 2 exits. Normally this would be a door and also a window. We want to make sure that windows and doors can open easily to allow for a quick escape. And if your home has security bars, we should make sure that they do have an emergency release device so that it can be opened immediately if there is ever an emergency. And we also want to consider getting escape ladders for second floor sleeping areas on homes. We want to just make sure everybody can get out. And it's also important to keep escape routes free of clutter and tripping hazards. We want to make sure that everything is really clear and ready if there is an emergency and we can get out quickly. And as the slide shows, we have blue arrows and red arrows pointing all around, but it shows in each room that there are 2 ways of exiting. And the first escape path out of each room is normally through the door, and then the second would be either a window or a second door if possible. Yes. And then we want to talk a little bit more about that safe meeting place, because it is very important in our plan. Not only knowing how to quickly get out of your home, but also knowing where you'll meet everybody, just to know that everybody is safe. So a home fire can be really confusing, and it will most likely, it would require your family members to use different escape routes just because everybody is not always in the same exact room. So having that safe meeting place ensures that everybody is safe. So we want to identify a location that is a safe distance from your home. And like I mentioned, a fixed meeting place that everybody can easily identify. And you want to make sure it can be also easily identifiable so that firefighters will see you and will know that you're safe and accounted for after you call them. All right, so we also want to choose a place that is accessible for everyone. We want to make arrangement for children, older adults, and individuals with access or functional needs who might need assistance when escaping. We want to make sure that someone in the household is assigned to each person who may require assistance, and be sure to identify a backup person in case the primary person is not at the home during the time of the fire. So we do have an example at the bottom of this slide, just a short little one. It's where a family has a 2-year-old son who will need help to evacuate if there is a fire. And in the plan, we have mom as the primary person and dad is going to be the backup if the mom is away. And we also want to remember that smoke alarms might not always wake up kids. So we just want to be aware of that. All right. So once the plan is complete and written down and shared with everyone, it should be practiced at least twice a year. I know Gabby also mentioned how important it is to practice, but we really want to drive that home. As well, if somebody in your household has access or functional needs, you should have a support network to assist them in an emergency, and be sure to include your support network in the plan. Oops. And we also want to prepare kids or children in our households. It's important that they feel confident in responding to emergencies. Teaching them about the dangers of fire can actually make sure they understand that matches and lighters are not toys, as well teach them what smoke alarms sound like and how to react when it goes off. We want to make sure each child knows and practices at least 2 ways to escape from every room and meet at your designated safe place. And with kids, we want to really emphasize the phrase get out and stay out rule. We want to make sure that they are safe and really know how to quickly respond if there ever is a home fire. All right, so say we happen to be in a closed room. So if you have to escape a home fire and you're behind a door in a closed room, you should look for smoke coming through the cracks around the door. And before opening the door, you want to feel it with the back of your hand. And if it's hot, leave the door closed and use your second way out. As a last resort, if you are just unable to evacuate, you should seal your door by placing a cloth around the cracks or the openings to keep the smoke out. And we want to block all the air vents. And then after that, if you have a phone on you, you should call 911, tell them where you are. And if possible, if you have access to a window, use a light colored cloth or a flashlight to signal where you are and that you need help. And I believe Gabby already touched a little bit on this, but we do have an emergency app. And this is just a quick note that in the app, you can also make a plan with your household. So if it is something you want to do, you do have access to that. And so we've learned quite a bit today between myself and Gabby and as well the other presenters. So just a quick review to keep everybody in your house safe. We just want to remember those 3 steps, and that is make a home fire escape plan, test your smoke alarms monthly, and be sure to practice your home fire escape plan at least twice a year with your entire household. And that is all we have for you guys today. If anybody had any questions on the home fire or the preparedness essentials.
Fantastic, Brooke. This is Keith. I wanted to ask some questions if you guys have a few minutes for people to take questions.
Yeah.
Great. One of the things that I've done CERT training, been a firefighter, and done some other things with training like that, and I'm thinking about the kids as far as fire extinguishers go. Have you guys got a program? Is there any recommendation as far as training youth and how young would be appropriate to be able to use it? Because, in your kitchen or in your home, if you have that fire extinguisher there, sometimes they might be able to, do that. Or would you just recommend that they get out of the house?
I don't believe we have any programs for training kids. I don't know if Gabby can speak on that anymore, that she might know of.
Yeah, I mean, thank you, Kate, for your question. We actually don't have any programs that we are offering us right now that talk about fire extinguishers. Usually we do that through, the firefighters. So, however, we do recommend to get out of the house as safely as possible, right? And as fast as possible. That's a big, big message that we send through these programs, because that is actually the most I guess, effective way to preserve life, right? To get outside of the house. And firefighters and everybody else who is prepared, first responders, would actually go and take care of what it needs to be taken care of inside. That's the message that we send. But that is a great question, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a parent, so it's not easy for me to say, but I know that, like I worked at a bank, and I taught bank tellers how to use a fire extinguisher, because they were all over the place, but the fire drill was always close your drawer, walk out the door. And it was like, well, but if it's a little trash fire, there's a fire extinguisher, maybe if you just, it's gone. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, okay, and put the ladder upstairs and those things. So, it's a judgment call, but you mentioned training with fire extinguishers. We're trying to find a community program, and it seems like that's something that everybody needs, at least 2 or 3 even fire extinguishers, a kitchen one, a house one, a car one. So what does Red Cross look at as far as fire extinguishers in a program? I mean, is there anything that you guys promote as far as, groups being able to get fire extinguishers, things like that?
I am not sure, and I don't want to mislead you into an answer that I'm not sure about. We in preparedness, at least, with what is that wheelhouse, we do, like I said again, promote that you should get out of the house as quickly as possible. And we know that every household is different, right? And we don't know if in the household they have or they don't have a fire extinguisher. So that's we don't know, but the fire departments are the ones that we work with. And yes, preparation is what we want. However, I don't recall that we have any programs as right now that talk about specifically fire extinguisher. Sorry.
I know a program that we do push in the Red Cross, though it is a little different due to the environment we're in now, but it is the smoke alarms. We do sound the alarm, so we do really try to equip as many people as we can, at least with smoke alarms.
Yep.
We're trying to figure that out now in this new environment of how we can install those smoke alarms, but we're hoping to get something together for that. But we do definitely push the smoke alarm aspect of fire safety.
Great. We'd love to help with that. Doreen, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. It's been really valuable and really good at giving us the real basics so we can be as safe as possible in our homes. And I think what I'd like to do now is turn to the working team report. And the first one. I think it was accidentally muted, so this is Doreen back on the line.
Sorry.
I'd like to hear from Tracy with the communication team, what you would like to report tonight.
Yeah, and let me get back. We've got some screen sharing things here. Sorry you caught me unprepared with that.
That's okay.
And thanks to everybody, to Gabby and Brooke and
Absolutely.
Donna and Alexis and Nate for the Red Cross team. Incredible, great stuff. So, we are working as hard as we can here, but I really love the things with family-oriented and children-oriented, because that seems to be the missing element. We have lots of adults and seniors, but we're having a harder time getting families involved. So look forward to talking to you about that. And with that, I think we've got the screen back. Yes, thank you guys. And we'll go page down. There we go for Tracy.
Thank you very much. Hi, everybody. Yes, I would encourage you to go to the SherwoodFirewise.org website to look, because we have had some important forms put online. So if you are interested in volunteering, you can go to the website and click on volunteer opportunities, and then click on the application to fill out and submit online. And also there is a donation form online. So you would just go to the website and click on donations, and you can donate by your credit card online. And you have the option of a one-time donation, or if you're interested in doing a monthly donation, both of those are available to you. And also you can now order online the CAL FIRE approved address sign. And so that's available as well. Be sure that, we've had 5,629 engagements on the Facebook page last month, which is pretty awesome. And be sure that you are signed up with Nixle and Mendo Alert. You can go to the MendocinoSheriff.com website or text the zip code 95490 to 888-777. Or you can go to the website if you need to call in to sign up as well. And we're still looking for volunteers for Brooktrails neighborhood, especially. We're especially looking for people that would like to be scanner scouts or volunteer for the communications committee. Anybody interested in doing PR and like our monthly notices and whatnot. And you can go to the, as I just said, to the SherwoodFirewise.org website and fill out the volunteer form online. And I've already mentioned about address signs, order form, and then there are also different things available if you go to Prep for Emergency and click on that, and then go down and click on Forms and Helpful Checklists. You can access information there as well. And if you're not signed up, if you have Facebook and have not yet liked Sherwood Firewise Facebook, you can go and do that. And that concludes my report.
You're getting muted. I also wanted to mention one or two new things about communication, because I'm happy to work with you as our leader, and a few other new things that have happened is Matthew Kane, who's been doing a lot of work for Sherwood Firewise, has created a blog on our website with a lot of interesting articles that are important to people in our area. So that's really important. And I really want to stress how successful Safety Net has been as our way of communicating with residents of the Sherwood corridor. And I would personally love it if everyone on the corridor would sign up, because it's free and we get notices when there is an incident that may affect us. And we frequently get notices before there's any official notices sent out by the county, even though those are vital that we register for. It's nice to have a heads up. And so I think that's a really wonderful service. So that was all I wanted to add. So I'm wondering if the emergency prep report can be given. And Keith, I think that would be you that would give that.
Brian, call on you to. We basically we're putting together a year-end report that we wanted to have more. I wanted to have more for this meeting, but we will have a year-end report, and in the January meeting we'll give you some stuff. But I'll turn it over to Brian because we've had lots of great successes.
Yeah, thanks, Keith. So you can see the list there. The chipper days we served over 100 homes where residents brought fuel to the curb, and the Mendocino County Fire Safe Council funded a chipper crew to come by and chip and remove that material. It's a great program, but it's over now. We're hoping to get it going back again next year. That depends on funds coming in. The Lilac Loop from Clover back around to Primrose is a is a main artery, and that was one of the Firewise Communities members talked about that needing to be cleaned up, and the Fire Safe Council funded it. So that's over 2.5 miles of roadside fuel reduction to make that a safer egress and ingress route for travel. There's also, they did quite a bit out at the gates. And the NCO grant that funded Matthew's position as program coordinator, which greatly improved our website presence and media presence, and making sure all the notices got out and recruited some volunteers. Matthew did a great job, and we really thank him for the work that he did, and NCO for funding it. The Community Foundation is a grant that's going towards the benefit zone so that we can maintain the emergency access routes. And that's going to be a big push coming up next year. Stay tuned, contact us. We're going to need, there's a lot of work to be done in communicating that message, the importance of maintaining these routes and providing the funding for it. So yeah, January is coming up. We need your help. The Resource Conservation District and Trout Unlimited, they are working to expand water storage and road improvements in the area. They want to maintain stream habitat, but these improvements also help us for safety and providing water for firefighting if needed.
Yeah, Brian, if I can jump in there for a second. It was really great. We had people from representative from Trout Unlimited, also our local Larry Desmond from Mendocino Waterworks, and Joe Scriven with the Resource Conservation District all did a site visit with Paloma and John O'Clair over in the gates. And we went all the way down into Sherwood Creek and Rose Creek and down to where it empties into Outlet Creek to look at the watershed. As Brian was saying, the things that these guys want to do is keep the watershed pristine and have the fish come back and whatever, and that's through road work in the first case of keeping sediment out, and then also additional water storage, which is what Trout Unlimited wants. We could get better access roads and additional water for firefighting out of that. So the whole team of people came up, spent an entire day. And these guys, you wouldn't believe how excited they were to get down into Sherwood Creek and Rose Creek and see the environment there for some of the fishery habitat, because these are ultimately the very tops of the watershed for portions of the Eel River, and going into Outlet Creek is a very big watershed. So anyway, just want to mention that there's actually a proposal going in this week for major road work in the Gates and Spring Creek to reduce sediment. But what that also means is our roads will be in really primo shape for access and emergencies and just regular driving. So anyway, that's the scoop on that.
Great. Brian, anything else on planning and funding?
No, I don't have anything else. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Brian and Keith. And Keith, did you have anything to add for emergency prep that you're involved in?
Yep. Yeah, so I just flip that slide and we'll see if that comes up. There we go. And like Brian said, the on-the-ground stuff that we did this year was incredible with over 100 homes cleared, and we're working on some acreage and tonnage and such, but very successful program. We're going to need to try to do more of that. And then, over a dozen miles of roadside clearing in addition to lilac. They were over at Poppy and Primrose, and, we tried to do that. But all that was done with the Mendocino County Fire Safe Council funding, and that program's pretty much completed at this point. Like I say, we'll have an annual report and give you some numbers on it. on the other projects for the emergency access routes, and I've got a couple of maps I'm going to show you here in a minute, we've got the scope of work for doing the vegetation management, and CAL FIRE is in the process of trying to schedule the workers to come up to do the work. So between now and the next quote-unquote fire season, hopefully we're out of one and going a long time before we get to the next, but they expect to do the work to clear the Willets Creek emergency access route before the next fire season. So we'll have yet another opened up access route. And as Supervisor Haschek mentioned, I've heard now a dozen times from different people about how important the work on FERCA was to the fighting in the Oak Fire. So, it wasn't luck. It was hard work on a whole bunch of people's part that made that happen, and we just got tested early on, and it worked. So the big project for CAL FIRE will start next year, and so we'll be sending out. There'll be some public meetings and a lot of notification about work being done along Sherwood Road, Ridge Road, Blue Lake Road, River Road. And then in addition to that, parallel with that, we're also going to be going to the public hearings and balloting for setting up this emergency access road benefit zone to basically pay for the maintenance of those routes into the future. What I put on the screen here is a map we've seen before, but I wanted to sort of enlarge it a little bit so you can see the extent of the project we're talking about. It's all of Sherwood Road from the intersection in the city of Willets all the way out to the intersection back to 101. So Sherwood Road, the entire length, will be doing roadside fuel reduction over the next couple of years. And then in addition, at the top of the ridge here, basically Ridge Road all the way down Blue Lake Road, Timber Road, out back to Sherwood Road. So you can see the flow of being able to bring traffic, if needed, either in or out these routes, and how important that is. So that's the CAL FIRE project, and there's plenty of work going on that, and a lot of meetings and discussions over the next, 2 years. And I'll talk about the segments of Ridge Road that Doreen asked about earlier. If you see here, and it's hard on this map, and I'll show you on another one, excuse me, in a second, but this part of Ridge Road, if you try to go back around to get back out of Brooktrails, Ridge Road used to go all the way through, but when the subdivision was finalized, there were portions that went across some private properties, and over time, gates have been put up, and the route is sketchy. I've talked to the chief, Neuer, about this. He recognizes, and we want to look at it in a similar way to what we're looking at on the other emergency access routes, of negotiating with the property owners to allow us to maintain an access for emergency vehicles to use their access in emergencies, or possibly for evacuation if needed. That will tie into, and let me go to this next map, which are, and again, I apologize for not having a lot of detail on these, but this is the Willets Creek route that we're talking about maintaining this coming year. This is the FERCO route over here, but this doesn't show the Primrose route, so I'm sorry I don't have that. But the Primrose route would basically give us a route down to KOA Campground and also to actually Lane. And Supervisor Haschek told me, he didn't say it tonight, but he told me there's only one landowner in that chain of landowners that they're still negotiating, but Chris Neary, the attorney for Brooktrails, is working on that. So we're on that, and we intend to get that in place, because that would give us a connection from Highway 20 up that south-facing slope up into Brooktrails, and that really completes a big circuit of routes. Let's see. I think that's all I've got to say. Oh, last thing, I'm sorry. Questions what we want, but I want to also announce that we have been once again recognized as Firewise USA recognized for 2020 and 21. So congratulations, everybody, for the hard work.
Good job, everyone.
Yeah, that's the applause button if we had a produced version of this.
Okay. Okay, and then I think the only other issue on our agenda tonight is our 2021 meeting schedule. I can confirm that we will have a meeting as usual the second Thursday evening in January, and that will be January 14th. But the one thing the steering group and the working team coordinators have been talking about is having quarterly community meetings with meetings in between those quarterly meetings that have a particular focus. So I'm wondering if there's any input from those that are watching or listening as far as your preferences. And if you want to say something now or send a message, that would be great. Or you could also email us at info@sherwoodfirewise.org. So Keith, since you have a screen, I'm going to turn it to you and see if there's any input.
Well, I'd like to say something. I'm very much interested in holding this second Thursday monthly Zoom meeting. But I understand that I'd like a focus meeting. I'd like to see the January meeting focused on what our plans are for the year 2021. What direction do we want this organization to take? How many meetings we want to have, how many general education meetings. I'm thinking quarterly meetings interspersed with concentrated working meetings where we'll have one day, one evening talking specifically about grant writing and funding and how we're going to fund these projects. January meeting, let's talk about what kind of projects, new projects we want to take on, what needs to be done in the year, and our vision for where we want to go.
Well said.
Thank you, Brian. I think it's exciting to realize that Sherwood Firewise is not really in just the beginning stages any longer, that we've reached a marker of growth. And I think January 14th is a good time to acknowledge that and see what the rest of 2021 will look like as we build an even stronger organization. Any other comments about next year? Any input for what anyone would like to see happen? Okay. So, Brian, do you have a rally that you wanted, or I'm sorry, a raffle that you wanted to pull a name on? I'm not sure how you do it. But is that happening tonight?
You're muted, Brian.
I need to unmute myself. There we go. So the raffle tonight, we have these lovely t-shirts. Yeah. Unfortunately, we only have size small and extra large. And we're also, your choice, the winner has a choice of one of those t-shirts or an address sign. These are great 4-inch high letters, reflective. Flashlight lights them up from 100 yards away. They're amazing. They almost glow in the dark. So I am not looking at this piece of paper that I wrote everybody's name on, and I'm dropping my finger, and the winner is what? What, Keith? The winner is Don. And is Don still with us?
Don is there.
Don's here. Don, drop us a chat of how we can get in touch with you. Or
I'm here. Had to find the unmute button.
Okay.
Actually, I'd prefer that it go to somebody in the Sherwood Fire group. If you don't mind drawing another name, I'm just sort of dropping in, dropping here.
You sure about these? Are fine shirts, Don? I mean,
neither one's going to fit me. I'm sure they're wonderful.
Don is giving the shirt off his back to to Nate. Nate, can we talk you into a shirt or an address sign? Nate is also muted. Yeah, Nate, there you are.
Thank you, but I'm gonna take Don's path and forward this on to somebody from within the Firewise group.
You guys, we're gonna be here all night doing this. But thanks, Nate. Oh man, I hit Nate again. But next to Nate is Brooke. Brooke, would you like a T-shirt?
Or an
Oh my
address
gosh.
sign.
Third time's a charm, right?
And the address signs are really nice.
No, I don't want to take anything from you guys. We're just super grateful to be here. I don't know how you're picking all of us, though.
Our guests are outnumber our membership at this point.
Or at least your fingers.
Okay. What do we got now? David Leverett. At least he's a local. Hey, Dave.
Hey.
Let's get you a sign.
And you can give it as a gift.
There you go. Make a great Christmas present.
That's right.
Okay, well, that's good. We got it.
Great. So
Well,
any other business from anyone on the line?
Yeah, and thanks so much again to everybody from Red Cross. What a team. We really thank you so much.
Absolutely. And I thank all of our speakers, and I'm sure I speak for all of Sherwood Firewise people that are, and certainly the working team coordinators, wishing everyone on this line a safe and warm holiday season. And we appreciate your attendance and the work you're doing for this organization to keep us all safer. So I'll look forward to hearing from everyone on January 14th at our next meeting. Take care, everyone, and good night.
And thank you, Doreen and Keith, for being the MCs.
Oh, thanks, Tracy.
It's the Twilight Zone. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a great night.
All right, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night, all.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.